While all of this phony Russian collusion nonsense was going on, the news became so partisan that if you were watching conservative outlets, you were getting the truth, but if you were watching liberal outlets, you were watching nothing but lies.
As if there are no shoes on the Trump human centipede that are not about Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia.
It's clear that Mueller is now connecting the dots.
Donald Trump's done. He's done. There's no question about it.
He's got to know his future looks like it's behind bars.
We have a treasonous president.
Presidency is effectively a Russian op.
And there was no presumption of innocence or interest in the truth.
Collusion. If there was not collusion, there was at least the effort to collude.
There was collusion. If they just do their work and do their job, they will find out it was collusion.
And this embarrassing excuse for news coverage didn't just stop at the Russian collusion narrative, it extended to everything.
According to a new report from Axios, President Trump has been very interested in a brilliant plan to stop hurricanes. Drop a nuclear bomb on them. This morning, the president tweeted from the G7 summit in France calling the story ridiculous.
They couldn't even let the man have a 4th of July parade.
So what is the message Donald Trump is trying to send by rolling tanks down Constitution Avenue? The message is a threat. But it's always a threat when you roll out your military. But it's to whom is the threat? And I suspect that the threat is to his fellow Americans.
This kind of hysteria led in part to the popularization of two terms: fake news media and Trump derangement syndrome.
Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Kathy Griffin intended to create a national firestorm with her bloody beheading stunt this week. She did, and it backfired, resulting in public scorn, the loss of sponsorships and gigs. And even Griffin admitted she went too far in a video posted online. But today, she wasn't very contrite, claiming she was the one who was wrong.
I'm going to be honest, he broke me. He broke me. He broke me. And then I was like, no, this isn't right. It's just not right.
Oh my God, honestly.
And it wasn't just celebrities that suffered from Trump derangement syndrome.
This is a sadness, it is a mourning moment, and it is a moment filled with fear.
This was a white lash. It was a white lash against a black president in part.
Apparently, the president gets 2 scoops. You know, everyone else around the table gets 1. And no word if there were sprinkles.
Donald Trump allowed right-wing Christians to finally vote for Caligula, Judas, and the Golden Calf.
He looked like a thug. He looked like a goon. You look at the handshake. You look at this. Just what a thug! What an embarrassment! Look, he's mauling him. Donald Trump again being a schmuck.
Is this president trying to impersonate Hugo Chavez, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin?
Love is the single most important word that Donald Trump does not understand. And very sadly for him, it's possible that he has never felt this in his entire life.
You feel better? Somewhat. You want a pacifier?
The president said that we will fly our flags at half-mast until August 8th. That's 8-8. The numbers 8-8 are very significant in neo-Nazi and white supremacy movement. Why? Because the letter H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and to them, the numbers 8-8 together stand for Heil Hitler. No one's thinking about this.
But as chilling as that is to hear, Frank, we're going to keep asking you to come back.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Trump could offer Alaska to the Russians in exchange for support in the next election, or decide to move to Mar-a-Lago permanently and let Jared Kushner run the country.
Trump derangement syndrome out of control. Remember, if your dog bites, if the bee stings, if the baby cries and you're feeling sad, it's all President Trump's fault. Now, according to the editorial board of the New York Times, Hurricane Florence is also President Trump's fault. I'm not making this up. Look at the headline on your screen. Another hurricane is about to batter our coast. Trump is complicit.
The Washington Post cited studies from Media Research Center and Harvard University's Shorenstein Center that both concluded that the mainstream media's coverage was overwhelmingly negative of President Trump. The Harvard study looked at his first 100 days and reported that Trump received 3 times the amount of coverage of any prior president, with 80% of that coverage being negative in nature. The Media Research Center looked at a different time frame, but found the coverage of President Trump to be greater than 90% negative. I don't know if the leftist media was willfully ignorant or woefully ignorant, but it was insane. They unfairly edited him to twist his words, constantly took things out of context, and lied about him being a racist.
The president is not messing up here. He did not trip and accidentally praise white supremacists and neo-Nazis and pro-Confederate demonstrators who actually killed somebody this weekend.
We also learned today that the president continues to believe, against all the evidence, that there were very fine people on both sides. He's trying to gaslight us again, asking us to believe something contrary to what you and I and everybody can see with our own ears.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. The driver of the car is a disgrace to himself, his family, and this country. The driver of the car is a murderer, and what he did was a horrible, horrible, inexcusable thing. You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups. Following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people. Neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious and it was horrible. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country.
It got so bad that the media just started making up fake news stories.
The media, facts were only an afterthought. Any anonymous source, yes, they believed. Like BuzzFeed's bombshell about the president directing Michael Cohen to lie, which Mueller's report exposed as totally false, or NPR being embarrassed after it lied about John Jr.'s Senate testimony, or McClatchy blatantly wrong about Michael Cohen's trip to Prague. It never happened. Or The Guardian reporting a fake conspiracy about Mueller and Julian Assange.
3 CNN employees forced to resign after reporting an untrue Russia-related story about our friend, the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. Or Brian Ross leaving ABC after a fake news story about Trump and Russia that actually impacted negatively the stock market. There was fake hysteria about a Russian spy in the White House. Or Bloomberg forced to correct their story about Trump and Deutsche Bank. And the New York Times had to walk back claims about Paul Manafort sharing polling data with a Russian oligarch. And don't forget the Washington Post having to correct their story about Russians hacking a Vermont utility, which wasn't true. He's attacking the fact that a reporter, you see Dave Weigel there, had suggested it was not a large crowd. He was using a photograph that was taken apparently hours before the event. Number 4, you see the bust there of Dr. King. Time magazine falsely reported that the president had removed that bust from the Oval Office. Number 3, the president, in his words, says CNN falsely reported that candidate Donald Trump and his son, Donald Trump Jr.,
Jr. had gotten special access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks before they were made public. That was not true. Number two, it's ABC News' Brian Ross. Remember that he got suspended. That report suggested that General Flynn was going to tell the special counsel, Robert Mueller, that there was Russian collusion dating back to the campaign. That was not true. The problem, of course, is that the stock market had had a bit of a crash after that news. And number one, this is interesting, New York Times columnist Paul Krugman said that the economy would never recover from the Trump victory.
But the American public saw through their lies, and their ratings plummeted.
You are now at 13th place in national ratings, behind Nick at Night, which is at 11. Tucker Carlson gets 4 million viewers. You barely scratched 800,000.
Hopefully soon, the only people left watching the fake news media will be the people that you couldn't convince that the guy they've been sending their money to with the Nigerian accent really isn't the Prince of Norway. Social media giants played their part by shadow banning, suspending, and outright banning conservative voices that were in defense of President Trump. I'll get you, my pretty. And your little frog, too. And they really got the little frog. 2 weeks after Donald Trump Jr. posted a Trump Pepe meme, the Anti-Defamation League declared the beloved little green frog is a symbol of hate. And Vanity Fair ran with the headline, Donald Trump Jr. shares white supremacist meme. I guess they decided to ignore the fact that one of their white supremacists was a prominent African-American neurosurgeon. Everything Trump supporters did or said was labeled as racist too, despite there being tons of minority Trump supporters. People from politicians to just regular citizens wearing MAGA hats were kicked out of restaurants and shouted down. We saw the rise of Antifa, a far-left terrorist organization that became the darlings of the fake news media. Lunatic leftists began assaulting politicians and Trump supporters. And crazy liberal politicians supported these actions.
When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about.
All right, ma'am. Please get up in the face of some Congress people.
Yeah, we know where you live, man. We know where you live.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Let my wife through.
We believe survivors.
For God, we believe survivors.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
Congressman Steve Scalise was shot and badly wounded and is now in stable condition at the hospital, along with two very courageous Capitol police officers.
There is no reason to have all of this strife and violence going on. We are not enemies. We are brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and friends and neighbors. The deep state has pitted us against each other to distract us from their crimes. Have you ever thought about what it would look like if we had a president that really did go after political corruption? He'd have to be an outsider. Someone that didn't get rich by taking bribes for political favors. Someone that would question why so many members of Congress became multimillionaires on an upper middle class salary. Someone that would expose their nihilism and pay-for-play schemes.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Would this president be welcomed with open arms? What about the corporations that paid money to those politicians? Would they be happy about someone preventing them from buying influence? No, of course not. This is what it looks like when you drain the swamp. You are mercilessly attacked on all sides. And the utterly despicable way that President Trump has been treated would have broken a lesser man.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals. They've stripped away these towns bare and raided the wealth for themselves and taken our jobs away out of our country, never to return unless I'm elected president. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe, and morally deformed. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media. Hillary Clinton is also given approval and veto power over quotes written about her in the New York Times. They definitely do not do that to me. In my former life, I was an insider as much as anybody else, and I still know what it's like to be an insider. It's not bad. Now I'm being punished for leaving the special club and revealing to you the terrible things that are going on having to do with our country. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. But I never knew it would be this vile, that it would be this bad, that it would be this vicious. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. Believe me, I built a great company and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family. Instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. But I also know that it's not about me. It's about all of you, and it's about our country. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. We will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
The deep state loves to accuse you of doing the crimes that they themselves have committed. They investigated the Trump campaign for exactly what the Clinton campaign did. Supposedly, the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians to get dirt on Hillary, but it was actually the Clinton campaign and the DNC that paid a former British spy to get dirt on Trump from Russians. And the truth was, and still is, being hidden from the public by a willful and complicit media, making Spygate the greatest story never told. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and please share it. You can help us continue to fight in the war against disinformation by donating at paypal.me/rightleftofcenter and at subscribestar.com/rightleftofcenter. I'm Right from Right Left of Center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.